Let's do the actual math before anything else, because I want to be straight with you from the first sentence. $5,000 a month in dividend income requires roughly $1.5 million invested at a realistic dividend yield most solid companies actually pay. If you're investing $25 a week and expecting that to become $5,000 a month within any normal time frame, the honest math says it takes somewhere north of 50 years at realistic returns, not the watch it happen in 30 pitch you'll see in a lot of finance content, including some of the videos that inspired today's topic. So here's the honest version of this video. I'm not going to sell you a fantasy number. I'm going to show you what $25 a week genuinely becomes through a real, powerful strategy called drip investing, what that actually means in dollars over realistic timeframes, and what it would genuinely take to get closer to that $5,000 a month figure. Because there is a real path there, it's just not the one usually advertised.
Here's the mechanism first, because it's genuinely worth understanding, regardless of the specific numbers. DRIP stands for Dividend Reinvestment Plan. Instead of taking the cash dividend a stock pays you and letting it sit in your account, you automatically use it to buy more shares of the same stock. Those additional shares then generate their own dividends the following year, which buy even more shares, which generate even more dividends after that. It's the same compounding principle behind every investment strategy we talk about on this channel, just applied specifically to dividend-paying stocks instead of pure growth. Here's a simplified example so you can see the mechanism clearly. Say you own 100 shares of a $20 stock paying a $1 annual dividend per share. Year 1, that's $100 in dividends, reinvested to buy 5 more shares, bringing you to 105 shares. Year 2, those 105 shares generate $105 in dividends instead of 100, buying slightly more shares again. Nothing dramatic happens in any single year, but the share count keeps quietly growing, and each additional share is now generating its own dividends going forward, entirely on its own.
Now let's do the actual math on $25 a week specifically, using realistic long-term return assumptions rather than optimistic ones. A diversified portfolio of solid dividend-paying stocks, the kind of blue-chip, dividend aristocrat companies that have reliably raised their payouts for decades, has historically delivered somewhere around 8 to 9% in total annual return, combining dividend income with share price growth over long periods. At $25 a week, that's $1,300 a year contributed. After 20 years at a 9% average return, that portfolio would be worth roughly $69,000. After 30 years, roughly $177,000. After 40 years, roughly $439,000. These are genuinely meaningful numbers, and I don't want to undersell them. But even at 40 years, a $439,000 portfolio at a realistic 3.5% dividend yield generates around $1,280 a month in dividend income, not $5,000. To actually reach $5,000 a month purely from dividends, you're looking at needing that portfolio to grow past $1.5 million, which at this contribution level realistically takes somewhere past the 55-year mark.
So does that mean the $5,000 a month promise is just false advertising? Not entirely, but it's missing the one honest ingredient that actually makes it possible: increasing your contribution over time, not keeping it fixed at $25 forever. This is where the strategy becomes genuinely powerful instead of just a slow crawl. If you start at $25 a week and increase your weekly contribution by even a modest amount each time you get a raise, say redirecting half of every future raise into this same drip portfolio instead of letting your lifestyle absorb it, the growth curve changes dramatically. Someone who starts at $25 a week in their 20s and gradually works up to $150 or $200 a week by their 40s, simply by redirecting a portion of normal career raises rather than dramatically overhauling their life, can realistically reach that $1.5 million mark within a working lifetime, especially when combined with employer retirement matching most people are already eligible for and underutilizing.
Choosing the right stocks matters here too. Briefly, blue chip dividend stocks Long-established, financially stable companies with decades of consistent payments form a reasonable foundation. Dividend aristocrats, companies that have specifically increased their dividend for 25 consecutive years or more, add stability, because that track record makes a sudden cut unlikely. A modest allocation toward higher-yield dividend stocks can boost income, though usually with more risk attached. And growth-oriented dividend payers, companies that combine share price appreciation with a smaller but rising dividend, round out a portfolio that isn't purely chasing yield at the expense of actual growth. Let me show you two people, because this is where the honest version of the strategy versus the fantasy version actually plays out.
Daniel started his DRIP portfolio at $25 a week in his mid-20s, having seen exactly the kind of $5,000 a month video we opened this one talking about. He kept the contribution fixed at $25 for over a decade, expecting the number to eventually catch up to the promise he'd been shown. By his late 30s, disappointed that the portfolio was worth a modest five-figure sum rather than anything close to what he'd been promised, he assumed the strategy simply didn't work and stopped contributing altogether, redirecting the money elsewhere. Priya started at the same $25 a week, at the same age, but treated every raise across her career as an opportunity to increase her contribution specifically, redirecting roughly half of each raise into the same DRIP portfolio rather than letting her lifestyle absorb all of it. By her mid-30s, she was contributing closer to $75 a week. By her mid-40s, closer to $150. She never made one dramatic decision, just a series of small, repeated ones every time her income grew. 25 years in, her portfolio was worth several $100,000 and climbing, generating real, meaningful monthly dividend income, genuinely on a believable path toward the kind of number that gets promised in thumbnails, just arriving through patient, honest compounding, rather than a $25 a week fantasy.
So, if you came into this video hoping for a shortcut to $5,000 a month on $25 a week, here's what I actually want you to leave with. The mechanism, DRIP investing, is genuinely powerful and worth using. The math on $25 a week alone simply doesn't get you to $5,000 a month within a realistic time frame, and any video telling you otherwise is skipping a step in the math. What actually gets you there is starting now, however small, and treating every future raise as an opportunity to increase the contribution rather than your lifestyle. If this gave you the honest version of a strategy you'd only seen the exaggerated version of before, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more videos that run the real math instead of the thumbnail version of it. And tell me in the comments, what's your actual weekly number, and could you realistically increase it with your next raise? I read every single one.